The little boy called over the rattle of the wagon. He edged back from where he had been sitting on the bouncing tailgate with two of his brothers watching out the back. Charlie crept forward with hands and knees, weaving his way through a variety of household things stowed haphazardly in the wagon bed. Charlie perched glumly on a low trunk and clenched one tiny and still chubby fist around the rim of the tub to keep it in place. He looked forlornly out the back of the wagon, its canvas top faded and bleached and about to give up to the elements. Serena gritted her teeth again. A man now, her man, would know how to stow a load so it wouldn't skate all over the wagon that way. And there probably would still be room for most of the boys to sleep out of the wet. But Will Sanders was 5 years dead, and nobody had come along to take his place. Nobody had even come by the old place for her to talk to and make a sign with her hands or her body, or signal with her eyes that maybe they ought to go out behind the corn crib after the boys were tucked in. The wagon hit one of those water scars in the road with a jolt, and the wash tub spun out of Charlie's puny grasp to clap him a good one on the shins. "Ow!" he screamed, looking to his mother for sympathy with big water-filled eyes. She ignored him. Something deep inside gave her satisfaction when one of her young'uns got bumped that way and yelled. Maybe then he would know how it felt to be hurt. God knows she had been. The road was nothing more than two water-chewed ruts in an otherwise trackless wilderness of scrub grass and damn few trees. It meandered aimlessly, running precariously down steep hillsides and across stretches of meadow before perching itself dangerously on the side of some hill. The team strained on those nasty climbs, their feet skidding on the loose gravel sometimes, and then having to brace their legs to maintain their footing and to keep the wagon from rolling over them. Serena had never learned the use of the wagon's brake properly, so the pair of mules had to do most of the work, and their sore necks in the collar showed it. She'd used the brake at all the wrong times, creating 10 times the work for the mules. Whoever laid out the road had run it up and down these hills on purpose, Serena thought, her impatience turning into a burning sore of anger. The flats were connected between the hills, and why in the name of all that was good and evil they couldn't have run their precious road all through the flats was beyond her. "I tried to tie the wash tub so it wouldn't roll around, Ma," said her oldest boy, Harry, perched on the spring seat beside Serena. With one hand tightly gripping the pitted gray iron rod arm beside him, his other hand rested lightly on his mother's thigh as she coaxed the team over the impossible trail. Now and then she reached down to pat his hand affectionately. Harry, though the first of her sons, had always been her favorite. "That's all right. You done what you could, sonny, and that's all a body could ask." Serena was suddenly sorry she couldn't provide better for Will's young sons. Just look at Harry, she thought. His white, spare ankles showed out of the baggy-kneed wool breeches held up by the gallus suspenders. His shirt was faded and threadbare and out at both elbows. Despite the broad brim of his battered and low-crowned hat, his nose had sunburned and peeled and sunburned again several times on the trail, and now had raw, red, and sore-looking places where he'd picked at the dead skin. His forehead was the same from going without the hat. She'd nagged at him about keeping his hat on. Harry favored Will. In fact, all the boys took after their father. Serena could never put it into words, but that resemblance probably accounted for some of the anger and impatience with the young'uns. Will surely was not to blame that he had upped and died of the winter fever, but it had certainly become a trial for Serena to try to be both father and mother to a brood of 4 noisy and boisterous man-children. She hadn't known a moment's peace since their father died. Days were nothing but work, 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 and her nights were horrors of loneliness. On top of that, she'd lost Will's farm place to back taxes. Now she was taking the boys to live with her sister, Edith, and her husband, Clyde, in western Kansas. Serena hated the prospect, but there was no place to turn. Edie had always been insufferably superior as far as Serena was concerned. Her soul, she thought, had long deserving of some kind of peace and rest, and she probably couldn't find it with Edie and Clyde either. It was high time somebody paid her due.